The Heavenly Demon. Can't Live a Normal Life. By Sanchin. Chapter 153. Dealing with Magicians. Part 1. Clack clack. Inside the carriage to Dmitri, Felix checked the documents he had prepared in advance. Dmitri. A place called the Holy Land for blacksmiths in the Cairo Kingdom. He heard rumors about it. The quality of metal in Cairo was very good, and most of them were known to come from Dmitri. Actually, it wasn't a place that would interest Felix much. Swordsmen who handle swords would consider Dmitri a great place, but most magicians would go to Kronos. Among the 13 magic towers in the continent, 7 of them, including the Heavenly Lord, belonged to Kronos. The magic towers were clearly classified as a neutral force, but as the majority of the magic towers were in Kronos, Kronos was evaluated as a sacred place for magicians. And Phoenix also wanted to settle in Kronos. It was safe to say that the infrastructure for magic was the best in Kronos. But that couldn't happen due to Frank's weak power. And to Felix, the Cairo kingdom had no merit. There were no magic towers in that place, and the kingdom's level to nurture its magicians was very low. If it weren't for the letter from Roman Dmitri, Felix would have never even set foot in this place. Roman Dmitri. A genius swordsman who appeared in the Cairo kingdom and is the youngest person to get a rank by defeating Butler. He didn't get an official rank yet, but no one doubts his skills. Roman Dmitri, the main character of this story. Even Felix knew about his huge reputation. Usually, weak nations manage to get 2 to 3 people in the public ranking, but Roman Dmitri defeated Butler in his mid-20s. It was something that people talked about. Starting from the 50th rank, no one would dare call the name of that person or his nation weak, except for the empire. After the birth of a genius who could break the boundary for the first time, even people in Frank remembered the name Roman Dmitri. If it was an invitation from Roman Dmitri himself, he thought it was worth trusting. Besides, according to what he heard and found out, wasn't the Dmitri family well known in Cairo? Roman Dmitri gave his word that 1,000 gold for a month would be provided just to spar with him. What could he be thinking? What could be his reason for contacting me from a faraway nation of unknown origins? For the Phoenix Magic Tower, getting 6,000 gold for half a year is a good amount. We can survive for a while. His head was full of complicated thoughts about Dmitri. If the Magic Tower Master hadn't disappeared, then Felix wouldn't have been suffering like this. Shoo! And he pulled the curtains. Tack. Outside the window, he could see Dmitri. The truth was that he had prejudices against Dmitri. The territory of Cairo itself wasn't amazing, so it was said that the nations on its outskirts would be lax. And now? From the distance, a massive mansion could be seen. This is Dmitri. The outer wall. Dmitri mobilized their family's craftsmen to build the strongest and tallest wall in Cairo. The gray walls of the estate would overwhelm the people just by looking at them, and the magic circles on them were donned for magic attacks. This was too much preparation for such a small estate. Even if it was an estate of the most well-known family in Cairo, this seemed too much. Furthermore, stop. The mighty steel gates. Dmitri's guards moved in perfect order and aimed their bows. Even though this wasn't wartime, they asked for the business of those who wished to enter. Please state the purpose of your visit. My name is Felix of the Phoenix Magic Tower. I came here upon the invitation of Roman Dmitri. I will check it for a moment. Felix stepped out of the carriage and identified himself. The waiting time was short. The guards had been given a guest list in advance, and after checking Felix's name there, they opened the outer gate of the 2 gates. Even if something went wrong, it was to halt the movement of the intruders only until the gate, at which point they would be unable to enter the estate. Keek. The gates opened. The guards proceeded with the inspections in a well-organized manner. Some looked at Felix's face more carefully, and some at the carriage. This made him admire the place. Normally, the estates on the outskirts are lax with security, and they don't have a system in place, but Dimitri's guards didn't appear to be. And that wasn't all. Felix's eyes trembled as the guards marched by. This isn't a lie. At the very least, they received enough training to have their own system. It was unexpected. Dimitri was famous for its blacksmiths. The family's power was not highly regarded, but what he witnessed made him change his opinion of them. After such a bold but short security check, what greeted Felix were the neatly moving roads and various types of buildings. It is certain. The Dimitris are not the type of people who take their lives lightly on the outskirts. The well-thought movements of the guards, the solid walls, and the interior show how much the Dimitri family is investing their money into making a good environment for their people. A family like this is being looked down on just for being on the outskirts. As expected, rumors can't be trusted. Suddenly, even before reaching the mansion, an amazing image unfolded before his eyes. If the shabby environment was like slums only a year ago, now it was beautiful. After a major investment from the mines, Baron Romero reflected on Roman's opinion and actively changed the estate. In preparation for an unexpected war, he didn't just train the soldiers. He got the walls repaired and also changed the living style of the people. Even before, Baron Romero was kind to his people, but he lacked experience dealing with the flaws in people's personalities, and this time he took Roman's advice. In just 1 year, Dimitri had changed. Felix, who had just stepped into Dimitri, couldn't think of any other version of this place. Maybe I underestimated Dimitri? As he began to rethink his opinion, Felix's expectations increased. The moment he met Roman Dimitri, it was as he expected. He knew that his expectations, which had been inflated, wouldn't be wrong. I am Roman Dimitri. A powerful voice and a charming appearance. After simply shaking hands, Felix felt overwhelmed. He is no ordinary person. He hid his amazement. This meeting had a purpose. Since the deal wasn't finalized yet, he didn't want to give away his emotions. I will get straight to the point. First of all, please make sure that the conditions stated in the letter are true. If you can guarantee that they are, how about we start discussing the other details seriously right away? These were the words he uttered as soon as he sat down. 1,000 gold per month, it was the statement that brought Felix here. No matter what was promised, Felix decided to leave if there was even a slight change in the conditions. Roman said, as stated in the letter, our conditions are clear. I will give you 1,000 gold every month, a total of 6,000 for 6 months, on the condition that you fight me daily. We are willing to pay you first on the first day of each month if you want. 1,000 gold isn't a small amount, but we thought giving them beforehand would make you trust us more. They are good terms. Advance payment to build trust. If he himself said it, then it couldn't be a lie. He believed in Roman Dimitri. He knew that he would have to pay that back if he could not do it right, but what didn't sit well with him was why he was going this far. Honestly, I do not understand this. The purpose is to have simple fights, which means there is no need to spend such a large amount. If you just give away 100 gold, a lot of magicians will definitely come. But going all the way to the Phoenix Magic Tower to make a proposal? I want to know why you made a deal by offering me 1,000 gold? Roman definitely wanted Felix. He looked into Roman's eyes, hoping for an answer, and Roman didn't hide the truth. If you ask me like that, I will not drag it any further. Although your magic tower has been struggling a bit recently, the Phoenix Magic Tower was called one of the best talent holders in the continent when it was doing well. And you, Felix, can use 5 circle magic at the age of 30. In particular, I heard that the fire magic is quite unique to the Magic Tower. 1,000 gold. It may not be a huge amount of money for most magic towers, but the situation at the Phoenix Magic Tower isn't good. So I decided that I would buy your time. That was all. I wanted the most outstanding magician at one point to spar with me. It was an honest statement. Even though Roman gave him a nice evaluation, the statement about his magic tower's failure made him unable to smile. I don't expect much from Mr. Felix. However, I want you to do your best. In the process, you will not be held responsible for any injuries or deaths, so make sure to give it your all. If you can promise me that, then Dmitri will not break the deal with Mr. Felix." And at that point, Felix showed a strange expression. He wanted him to do his best. For some reason, it sounded as if Roman was sure of winning. Was that why? "You will really not regret it, right?" Felix provoked him back. They headed to the training hall. On their way, he asked Roman again, but he just told him to do his best. Roman must be sure about winning. Is he being sincere, or is he just taking things lightly? Whatever it was, he didn't like it. His own magic wasn't weak enough to be handled easily for 6 months, and Roman said, "I will give up the advantage, so attack first." It was a statement that lit the fire for Felix. When Roman said he'd give up the advantage and let him take the first hit, he smiled. This hurt his pride. "Well, I won't back down." And he raised his mana. 6,000 gold. The magic tower needed this money. However, he didn't want to do badly or put his pride down for it. "I will make sure to end this fight at once by breaking his nose." Weak. Weak. A fire broke out. The waves of mana that Felix created turned into flames. Fire lance. A 3-circle magic with flames in the form of spears. Powerful flames moved toward Roman Dmitri, and he avoided them with light movements. This was an intentional attack. His pride didn't allow him to overwhelm the opponent at the first attack, so he made an attack that the opponent could easily dodge. Inferno. Weak. As the fire grew stronger, it drew in the blazing flames and moved around him, and this attack surrounded him. The circle was made of fire. As Roman moved quickly to avoid the flames, Felix manipulated it to follow Roman's movements. The flames were moving as if they were living things, and while slowing down Roman's movements with an attack, he prepared for another. Fire wave. Weak. Weak. Flames exploded. The flames rushed in like waves, wanting to drive Roman into a corner. Tack. With the short time gap, Roman managed to escape the flames. It was a shocking move. Roman was able to evade the magic quickly, but even that was anticipated. This is the end. Memorize. The magic he had prepared in advance rose. Rune Flare. A 4-circle magic. It was a powerful hit. He was convinced that Roman Dmitri would be defeated by this, as he had no way out. Actually, he could have used a 5-circle magic, but thinking that Roman might die, he lowered the intensity. Quang. Rumble. The magic did work. The flames had spread throughout the area, and there was no way for Roman to escape. This was the end. Even the best Aura swordsman wouldn't be safe with this. The result of touching his pride. If he had chosen Felix as his opponent, he would have at least been wary of his skills. But it was then. Weak. The flames roared, and emerging from them, Roman Dmitri rushed to Felix. Chapter 154. Dealing with Magicians. Part 2. What is this? A question popped into his head. Fire of magic. Even with an aura around him, the heat must have been difficult for his body to adjust to, but Roman Dmitri was rushing to him from the flames. He couldn't find an answer, but he had to dodge him now. Blink. Flash. Spatial magic. Felix's body vanished, and he appeared around 10 paces away from his original location. But Felix witnessed a shocking scene before he could even adapt to the new environment. Roman Dmitri should have attacked the illusion he had left behind, but he was charging for the real Felix. In just 3 steps, he was right in front of him, making Felix grit his teeth. Hold. He tied his ankles. This will earn him around 10 seconds. Stepping back quickly, Roman released the mana and suppressed his veins at once. This cannot be. This was a series of events that deviated from his plan. Roman withstood the flames of a 4-circle fire magic with his body, caught up with Blink, and now released hold in just 3 seconds. He was a monster, and common attacks didn't work on this monster. He wasn't sure how Roman was adjusting to this, but he was certain this opponent wasn't someone he could take on easily. Roman had a reason for being sure of his victory. Roman Dmitri knew how to deal with magicians, but Felix wasn't just going to step back. He told me to do my best to get paid 1,000 gold. Weak. His eyes were stained red with the secret skill of the Phoenix Magic Tower. Burning. It was impossible for him to cast it perfectly, but he could imitate half of it. Inferno. Weak. A spark of flame soon spread everywhere, and at the same time, each of the flames showed its own will according to Felix's control. The flames seemed to have an ego of their own. Dozens and hundreds of flames rushed for Roman. It was an ability that went beyond normal flame magic, and Roman couldn't possibly escape from it. But Kwang. Weak. Roman avoided the attack in front of him with minimal movement. The flames would pass if he turned his head slightly, so he moved to the side to avoid them. Roman Dmitri broke through the front without slowing down. It was as if Roman had anticipated how the attack would come. Felix was completely overwhelmed by Roman's movements and how he avoided all the magic attacks. It made no sense. There were now thousands of flame sparks. Even just one of them was enough to burn the skin, so how was he fine? Damn it. Suddenly, the opponent appeared right in front of him. There was no way out, so he used Blink to control the distance this time. Blink. Flash. Their space was now close, and his movement was physically impossible to match. The moment his body disappeared, leaving an illusion behind, he moved 20 paces away, and Felix witnessed the devastating reality. Whack. Ack. An attack that went for his stomach. Roman followed Blink again and punched Felix in the stomach. Thud. He fell to his knees, unable to bear the pain, and Roman appeared above him, saying, "Today's sparring ends here. I will see you at the same time tomorrow." Once a day, that was the condition for both of their benefits. Felix, who finished the first day's schedule, looked up at the sky with a blank face. How is this possible? Roman Dmitri. The power he showed was beyond common sense. Surely, the rune flare he used after driving the opponent to a corner would have been powerful enough to change the outcome of the fight, but Roman rushed through the flames. And that's when it happened. Nothing was going as Felix had planned, and the more he fought, the more he felt like he was being caught in Roman's grip. And in the end, Roman's movement to avoid the fire magic was excessive. Even though he had increased the intensity of the flame magic by using burning, he didn't seem bothered by it. Roman Dmitri obviously knew how my magic would work. If it weren't for that, I wouldn't have been caught after using Blink. As far as what I learned from the academy, there is no miraculous skill to know where the magic would happen. If that is the case, then it must have been because of Roman Dmitri's prior knowledge. And his heart was filled with a light-hearted feeling. He thought a fight with magic and a sword wouldn't be hard, and if he showed Dmitri his skills, the fight would be over, and he could take the money. So he didn't expect what had happened today at all. Even if Roman Dmitri was a great swordsman, Felix was sure that he would not be pushed back, but he was crushed. Unable to do anything properly, Felix knelt down and spat. It was humiliating. The most humiliating part for him was thinking that Roman Dmitri got the best out of him. If we fight again, will I be able to win? More than that, the thought of Roman Dmitri took over his mind. He let his imagination run wild. Roman Dmitri appeared in front of him. He used magic against him, and Roman rushed for him, but he couldn't land a hit on Roman because of his agile movements. The study of magic was complex. No matter how powerful one was, it was meaningless if the attack didn't work, and that was why Felix knew how to drive his opponent into a corner. But his plan collapsed due to Roman's magic-piercing evasion ability. He didn't think his magic could be destroyed, and a method to destroy Roman didn't even enter his mind. Finally, I can never win like this. Defeat. Even in his imagination, he knelt helplessly, but he still continued to trouble himself. People called Felix poison. When the magic tower master went missing, everyone said that the Phoenix magic tower was doomed since its main magic was cut, but Felix persisted and trained with what he knew about burning. It wasn't a great achievement. However, the fact that he alone could implement even a part of burning, which had to pass through a battle and complex methods of implementation, showed how diligent he was. 3 years. A mere successor rose to the power of Tower Master. People denied Felix, saying he was just some guy aiming for power, and now too. He felt annoyed with Roman Dimitri's abilities. He acknowledges him. From the moment he was defeated by a huge margin, he knew that the man was greater than the rumors, but accepting defeat was a whole different thing. As he was able to use a part of burning by implementing thousands of experiments, Felix had no intention of being used as a scarecrow. I will definitely win the next time. As he was lost in thought, the sun went down and rose again. The next day was the second round of sparring. Felix was the same yesterday as today, but he changed his strategy for dealing with Roman. If the opponent can predict my magic and move, then all I have to do is make his predictions meaningless. This time Felix attacked first, and he didn't refuse the favor. Felix raised his mana, and immediately put the plan into action. Stone Edge. Quack. Rumble. The rocks on the ground rose up. This was usually used as an offensive spell, but this time, he set them up in coordinates under his feet, which caused Felix to stand on a rising rock. In an instant, he had an advantageous position, and Roman Dimitri jumped at one rock and tried to attack Felix. As I thought, a high position was not an attractive advantage. As long as he didn't use the 6-circle magic, fly, he knew he could not move away from Roman's attack range. Even so, he didn't choose a high position for no reason. Inferno. Weak. Rumble. Sparks rose, but they didn't attack the opponent. The flames were moving around, and they went beyond the predictable movements. There was a rain of fire from the sky. How could anyone even manage to attack all the flames that were covering the world? Even Roman Dimitri wouldn't be able to stop it. The strength of this magic lies in not aiming it at the enemy. Even if the magician attacks at a range of 5 meters, anyone within 10 meters will be swept away by this magic. Felix planned an indiscriminate flame attack. Even if it wasn't the best attack, he determined that he had to use it. Fire wave. Weak. Weak. The flames raged, and a force that was not aimed at Roman burned the surroundings, and Felix continued to use magic. He couldn't locate Roman Dimitri's whereabouts. He couldn't find his figure under the rock because it was engulfed in flames, but he thought that the opponent wouldn't collapse just from this. It was then. Weak. Roman Dimitri emerged through the flames. Seeing his figure floating in the air, Felix used an attack he had prepared in advance. Fire cannon. Weak. 5-circle magic. This time, there was no way to avoid it. Fire cannon was fast and powerful. Because he was in the air, he had dug a perfect trap to drive Roman into a corner. Quang. Rumble. The flames of fire cannon covered Roman's body, and that moment, Felix saw it. The wall that blocked the flames, the intangible wall. Felix couldn't help but be shocked when he saw such a shield. Or a shield. It was a kind of technology he had never heard of in his life. What was certain was that his magic was completely blocked by the shield, and he couldn't stop Roman because he was too exhausted. Whack! The strong impact made his head snap back, and he fell to the ground. It hurt. His face and body were both in pain, and his mind had a single thought. Was it a magic artifact? No. If he had borrowed the power of magic, then I would have noticed the flow of mana right away. Roman Dimitri had no reason to win by doing that. He used aura as a barrier, as well as his own skills. He chuckled at this. What was Roman Dimitri? He tried to use his head to take down Roman Dimitri, but he couldn't even touch Roman's hair. He felt devastated when Roman got close to him and said, "Felix, it doesn't matter if I win over you. I have something to gain from fighting you, so a one-sided fight like yesterday and today is not what I want. So don't do anything like that and try to bring me down. As long as it is magic, feel free to use any method." Roman's words felt humiliating to him. But Roman didn't stop. "If that isn't enough, call the magicians from the magic tower. Even if it's one against many, I can beat them all. A total of 180 battles over 6 months, and if you cannot drive me into a corner even once, I will regret choosing you over the many other magicians." At that moment, his eyes were stained with anger. The pain hadn't even subsided yet, but Roman was doing this. "And right then, just once. If you can win against me, then I will give you 10,000 gold. 10,000 gold." At those words, Felix went speechless. He was sure of it now. From the start, Roman Dmitri didn't consider him his equal. Chapter 155. Dealing with Magicians. Part 3. Roman's words. When he first heard them, he was infuriated. "He is looking down on me. 10,000 gold. That was enough money to feed 40,000 people for a year." Actually, it seemed to imply that he was certain he couldn't be defeated, and furthermore, he requested that more magicians be summoned because Felix couldn't seem to handle him. Roman's intentions might not have meant that, but his remarks were certainly interpreted negatively, and this alone did not allow Felix to sleep. Felix was a 5-circle magician. In terms of an aura swordsman, it would be equivalent to a 4-star aura user, but magicians always had the upper hand over the sword. Even if Roman was 5-star, it didn't make sense for him to lose that easily. He couldn't stop thinking about it. In the midst of his bubbling and boiling anger, he looked back on their fights. "From now on, it is a matter of my pride. I will make sure that Roman Dmitri kneels down." Just in the first week since his arrival, he had a string of defeats. He had no way to handle Roman as he constantly evaded all the attacks, and he had learned Roman's movement pattern, so he deliberately attacked him first. With his heart set on his pride, he decided to use the basics he had learned to plan Roman Dmitri's defeat. In the 8th match, he used movement restriction magic. He tied Roman's feet with compulsive magic such as slow, but the effect of the magic disappeared, and he couldn't stop him for long. It made no sense. In the first fight, Roman shook the effect of hold, yet he couldn't understand how he was able to react this quickly. According to what he learned about magic, he heard an effect could be eliminated by removing mana which seeps into the body. However, it was a difficult method to execute, and Roman Dmitri's reaction speed exceeded the norm. Thus, his first plan failed. 5 days later, he started the second plan. This time, he hid in a mist made of magic. But Roman Dmitri still managed to find Felix's location, even though the information was blocked. The positions of the sky and the earth felt reversed in this foolish attempt. And with a strong shock to his head, Felix fell to the ground. A week later, he came up with his third plan, which was to incite Roman to attack. He had set a magic trap beforehand, and as soon as Roman Dmitri rushed at him, he activated the magic trap and attacked. But when Roman stepped on the ground, there was a powerful shock that destroyed the trap. It was great enough that he knew magic traps existed, but he had never heard that they could be destroyed just by stepping on them. This made him lose his mind. His third plan was crude, but it wasn't impromptu. He had prepared it a day ahead, but it didn't even hurt Roman. Roman was a monster, and he was someone a magician couldn't touch. Aside from their skill differences, Roman knew how to deal with magicians. Roman Dmitri's ability is something that cannot be understood with the science of magic. Just where did this monster come from? If Roman harbors a malicious mind towards magicians, then it will be difficult for even a 6 or a higher circle magician to survive. He felt goosebumps rise. Just imagining meeting Roman on the battlefield made him want to admit defeat. The spars happened each day. It was outrageous. He didn't use any other means or methods, and in 30 days, he gave up his pride. His last resort was to take advantage of the chance when he went head-on against Roman. He took advantage of the gaps in Roman's defense and attempted to finish him with a powerful attack. The result: Quang. Rumble. The aura shield. His attack was blocked. Felix, who was looking at the figure of this vague shield, gritted his teeth. Whack. The world spun around. Felix, pinned to the ground, raised a white flag after a month. 30 days. 30 fights. 30 defeats. Now he has acknowledged it. Roman Dmitri was a being he couldn't defeat alone, and Felix took another way. I should not cling to my pride. If I lead the Magic Tower magicians and encounter a monster like Roman on the battlefield, we still wouldn't win. He contacted the tower, and the magicians arrived at Dmitri, and when Felix explained his purpose, it made them frown. You want it to be a one versus all fight? Mr. Felix. That isn't right. Magicians generally do not spar or even fight. Magic is the type that controls the area, and that is difficult to do against swordsmen. If done wrong, it can lead to the most threatening and scary accident. And to even go against one man. If we hurt the eldest son of the Dmitri family, what will we do? The reaction was negative. One against many was the worst form of fighting. And above all, there was something they didn't like. To be honest, losing 30 defeats in 30 fights is a bit much, right? Mr. Felix, you are now the acting master of our Magic Tower. If so, you need to show some dignity. But you came to this faraway place and showed such a humiliating form. It was a magician called Nox. Immediately after the Magic Tower master vanished, the power system collapsed. Felix was the acting master, but magicians like Nox couldn't accept the change in the tower and ignored him. It was hectic to deal with. Even if they had decided to help the Magic Tower, then their bleak future would have been better, but they decided to let the incompetent magician deal with it. If they weren't good with magic, shouldn't they be good at politics? Felix, who had a more single-minded nature, was a person who wasn't good as a master despite being the tower master. Felix said, "You people are right. No matter what excuse I give, 30 defeats in 30 fights is an unfathomable result. However, for this fight, Roman Dmitri had bet 10,000 gold as a reward. If we work together and take him down, you can use half of that for personal use." You mean it? At that moment, the magician's expressions changed. Half of the 10,000 gold, even if they divided the gold into 5,000, there would still be a lot left for other magicians to use. And they looked at each other. As they looked at each other with greedy eyes, Nox spoke up. We just have to win once. It isn't an easy matter to think about. Roman Dmitri is a person who can be considered a nemesis to magicians, and if we are careless, we will almost certainly lose, so we must have the right plans and... Enough. His words were cut off. Nox was a five-circle magician. He was dissatisfied with Felix for taking the position of master, as he was in his mid-50s. In the first place, he thought he was a better magician than Felix. Even if he was an opponent Felix couldn't defeat, having so many magicians to fight against one opponent gave him confidence. He said, "Mr. Felix, do not worry. We will clean this up for you." A few days later, the sparring continued differently than usual. Felix, Nox, and 3 other magicians, it was a 5 versus 1 match. Despite being in an overwhelming and unfavorable situation, Roman's reaction wasn't different. "I will give you the first attack." "Huh." Smirk. Nox laughed. Even if there were 5 of them together, the magicians had the upper hand, and he wanted to give up the attack advantage? Was this confidence? Those words, "do not regret them." Glance. He gave Roman a glance before the start of the battle for 10,000 gold. They had no reason not to take advantage of the opponent's carelessness. He raised his mana, and the fight began with Nox taking the lead. Fire Lance. Weak. The moment the strong flames formed in the shape of a spear, the other magicians also moved. Fire wave. Fire burst. Flames exploded everywhere, and they all had no clear plan. Nox's plan was to simply hold down Roman Dmitri with the flames, which were already surrounding him. As more flames gathered around, the fire magic got stronger, and since there were many flames at once and no way out, they were sure that Roman wouldn't survive. But weak. Through the flames, Roman Dmitri rushed forward. Felix quickly shouted because he knew it was a pattern that used the aura shield. Be careful. Fire wall. Weak. He created a wall of fire. It was an ulterior attack to buy time. Before the flames could even move, Roman took the chance and attacked one magician who was at his side. Pack. Quack. A scream was heard. And one magician fell to his knees. But while that person was puzzled, another magician attacked Roman. However, Roman moved too fast. Roman quickly closed the distance with the other magician and defeated two magicians at once. This is insane. Nox was taken aback. He expected to end the fight with the first hit. He clenched his fists to draw the flames and used his secret weapon. Fire field. Weak. A 5-circle fire magic. He controlled the flames that were around and quickly attacked Roman, trying to limit his opponent's movements. But no matter which direction he chose to attack, Roman Dmitri's movements never slowed down. It was a disconcerting scene. In the midst of the flames, Roman quickly evaded the attack and went for another magician. They weren't aware that the realm of cold and heat didn't bother him. Roman couldn't be affected by these two attributes. Quackle. There were two left. Nox gritted his teeth and drew mana, but before they could do anything, Roman appeared in front of him. Quack. His speed was beyond normal. And Felix's warning came to his mind. He had repeatedly told them that Roman Dmitri wasn't like any other person. Finally. Pack. Nox stumbled. His eyes were wide at the powerful impact, and he fell back. It was a pure and clean victory. Felix opened his mouth. The fight wasn't over yet, but he couldn't attack now. No. The truth, which he had previously denied, has now been revealed. Roman Dmitri, it was clear that he had never shown his full strength until now. The Phoenix magicians' minds felt shattered. They came to their senses with swollen faces and looked at the sky, just like Felix did on the first day. There is always someone above us. What exactly happened? That was a fight we could never win. A crushing defeat. It felt like they had just lost their rationality. Those who were born with talents for magic were always used to being above others, so this helpless loss felt horrible. Felix was right. Roman Dmitri was a monster beyond common sense who could surely defeat a magician 30 times. Mr. Felix. What the hell have you been fighting all this time? It was Nox. Was this sympathy for him? When he faced this wall that couldn't be overcome, he felt an emotional connection to the man who did the same. A fight of one against many, and their last chance was now gone. Thinking that there was no way to defeat Roman anymore, Felix left the magicians and walked away. Wait. I will come after talking with Roman. He was curious. Roman Dmitri. How did he deal with so many of them? Starting with his evasion to his defense. From start to end, he wanted to look into Roman Dmitri's mind. He went to see Roman. Seeing him spend time alone, Felix felt a bit emotional. I'll ask you this straight up. Honestly, I do not have confidence that we can defeat Roman Dmitri. So, can you at least explain how you defeated us so that we can analyze it? In the world I have lived in, no one can avoid magic and break it head-on, as you did. I know this is a difficult thing to take, but please think about the future. I understand. I can't exactly tell you everything, but I can show you how I prepared for the showdown. Roman's answer was unexpected. He thought that he wouldn't tell him his secret, but Roman seemed fine with it. Follow me. They moved outside, and after a long walk, they arrived at a two-story building. This here. This is? Let's head in. It was a familiar environment. Just like a magic tower, there were numerous books on display inside the building, surrounded by bookshelves. Roman said. The books here are all magic-related. It is safe to say that Cairo has all the magic books on the market, from the popular ones to the not-so-popular ones. I stayed here for a while and spent time analyzing magicians. At first glance, there appeared to be 1,000 books. His mouth dropped open. At the sight of the books, he knew Roman Dimitri's victory was not because of luck. From now on, I will explain how I dealt with Mr. Felix. Do not accept this as a favor, and when you hear all of it, I hope Mr. Felix has additional advice. Roman walked away. Tack. They were books, and one was titled Understanding Magic. It was a basic magic book, which made Felix confused. Chapter 156. Dealing with Magicians. Part 4. 3 months ago, Roman had set his goal to analyze magic. From then on, he began to collect all sorts of books on magic and spent time analyzing everything when he had the chance. Understand magic from the most basic theory. He did, however, read them before proceeding to review the contents. Magic starts from resonating the mana from the circle with the mana in nature. Since it is impossible to express magic with mana in the body alone perfectly, the characteristics of mana according to each individual's inclination is a very important factor. If the mana held in the body is familiar with the fire attribute, then they can draw the power of fire from nature, and it is possible to create synergy when using flame magic. Resonating with nature was the root of all magic. Ordinary magicians studied, understanding magic, and tried to find things in mana that suited them. Fire is fire, water is water, and wind is wind. As stated in the book Understanding of Magic, rather than the opposite attributes, find the right one to learn magic. When Roman first read the book, he focused on understanding the content. And now, after dealing with Edwin Hector, Roman began to interpret things in a different light. Resonance of nature means that some kind of signal appears in the way magic is used. People often describe magic as some miracle of God creating something from nothing. But as the book Understanding of Magic explains, magic is not a power that appears without conditions. If only I could read that flow, wouldn't it be possible to figure out the existence of magic in advance and escape from it a step faster? It wasn't just a simple feeling or reaction to mana. It was a pattern, and he wanted to get to the essence of it. Even though it was a basic theory, Roman continued to question it. Magic is a form of well-organized science. Everyone can use the same magic if they can understand it, so magicians established a system of passing down knowledge from generation to generation. In other words, it means that it is possible to use this system. When a magician casts magic, the moment the mana that occurs in circles is connected to the mana of nature, you can predict what kind of magic the opponent will use depending on the form, amount of mana, and attributes of the mana. For example, if it is a display of fire, then it has to be a fireball. If one can figure it out in advance, it's not difficult to react to it later. A fireball has the power to explode in a straight line. Just moving left or right can help one avoid it. He was lost in thought. He imagined he was dodging a fireball. It is difficult to grasp the resonance of mana. So, in order to use this theory, I must consider it to be real and thoroughly understand the magician's magic as well as the system. When he understands his opponent better, he will achieve a perfect victory. So he purchased all of the expensive magic books, as well as bookshelves to store them on, and crammed the vast knowledge into his mind. Actually, he even checked to see if he had any chance of becoming a magician, but he discovered that the mana circle and dantian could not exist in the same body at the same time. Even if he worked hard, he would not be able to use magic. With the determination to analyze magic, Roman spent a lot of time studying magicians. In the first month, the analysis was slow. Since the foundation hadn't been established yet, he was engrossed in understanding magic. And then, time went on, and he slowly picked up the pace. As the books continued to fill the shelves, Roman began to understand magic little by little. When 3 months had passed, Roman Dmitri realized that he needed to apply what he had learned in real combat. Roman said, "The reason I was able to react quickly to Mr. Felix's magic is that I managed to read a pattern. I figured out in advance what kind of magic you would use according to the amount, form, and attribute of mana and chose to respond according to it. Whether you would use flames, waves, runes, or anything else. When a magician decides to use a specific magic, it isn't difficult to predict its purpose based on what kind of magic it is." Roman's first words frightened Felix. Roman said it was nothing special, but putting the theory into practice was much tougher than he thought. Firstly, 1. The sense of reading the resonance of mana. 2. The knowledge of knowing the type of magic just by looking at the resonance form. 3. Quick judgment based on the information. These were the 3 conditions needed. Felix was shocked, but Roman continued. The destruction-type magic such as hold is a kind of offset. As far as anyone in the magic world knows, curse-like spells can be lifted when the mana seeps into the body. However, this method is time-consuming. On the battlefield, where every second counts, that wouldn't be a good solution. That is why I chose to use the mana inside my body to create an external mana and explosion. So it exploded in my body. Even the slightest mistake or range and strength of the blast will take a toll on the body, but if properly used, it can neutralize the magic. This also made no sense. Felix asked him 3 questions. How could Roman react a step faster? Why didn't the curse magic work? What was the shield that blocked the magic? And Roman gave him a clear answer. However, while Felix was listening intently, he knew that not everyone could actually do this. And the third is the shield that blocks magic. It is formed like a shield by displaying the aura outside. I refer to this as a sword shield. It is a way to block the opponent's attack by using the powerful force of aura as a defense. Sword shield. It was a Muram method. Unlike how this world uses aura as an explosive force, the sword shield needed meticulous control to use the aura outside the body. If a normal swordsman tried to attack Roman, the unstable aura would blow up instead of taking the shock. Roman brought up the basic concept of magic, and Felix expressed his doubts about Roman's magic theory. However, after hearing his detailed explanation, Felix realized why he had lost. Tack. Roman closed the book, and my explanation ends here. Is there anything else you want to know? He asked. In order to supplement his own knowledge, he didn't hesitate to impart it to others. This was confidence. And looking up at Roman, he said, "No." Felix couldn't think of anything more to say. The discussion ended, and Felix returned to where he was staying. It was just a short time, but the conversation with Roman made him feel bad. What did I just hear? People called Felix a genius. Until now, he had thought of himself as gifted, but Roman Dmitri felt like a completely different being. Monster. He couldn't express it in words. Roman explained how he dealt with the magicians one by one, but it seemed like the world of common sense was collapsing. Roman Dmitri. He isn't someone who simply follows his instincts. He thoroughly analyzed the opponent and won dozens of victories against me using perfect calculations. It must have been the same thing with the 10,000 gold reward. Roman Dmitri was confident enough to win that he deliberately drove himself into a corner. This wasn't a general judgment. No matter how confident he was, in the face of a reward, he asked Roman Dmitri to help clear out the doubt about what Roman wanted to do and the knowledge he had. To prove it, they had gone against each other. And he was bold enough not to hide this method since no one else could use it. Can I do that? No. He could never do that. Even if he couldn't use the knowledge with his own strength, it was clear that he would have thought about the benefits he would have from keeping such knowledge to himself. It wasn't that he was ashamed of everything that happened. Knowing that most people would make the same choice as him for the reward made Roman seem more unusual. Suddenly, he remembered one conversation with Roman. Felix, it doesn't matter if I win over you. I have something to gain from fighting you, so a one-sided fight like yesterday and today is not what I want. So don't do anything like that and try to bring me down. As long as it is magic, feel free to use any method. Those were Roman's words. He was consistent from start to finish. He didn't care at all about showing his true self, power, or knowledge, and he hoped to gain something from fighting with him. In the process, he was even willing to spend money and give up his knowledge. As long as he could take a step forward, he did not care about who was following him. It was amazing because it was something Felix could never do. And for the first time in his life, Felix felt that his existence was insignificant. Even a strong man like Roman Dmitri works hard to improve his strength, and what am I doing? Since teacher vanished, I have constantly avoided the reality ahead of me, saying I couldn't help it. The same went when it came to choosing Dmitri. If I really had the will to do something, I would have tried to improve myself instead of coming here to make money. Consequently, he met Roman and gained enlightenment. However, if he had made the right decision, he wouldn't have chosen Dmitri, who offered him a certain amount. At this moment, Felix forgot about the deal. Aside from the huge reward, he hoped to accomplish something like Roman. For the rest of my time here, I will do my best against Roman Dmitri. I hope that Roman Dmitri will gain something from this, and I hope to gain something as well. I will spend time developing myself and not just devote myself to the money. There are many types of human beings in the world. Some people despair when they hit a wall, but some use it to develop themselves, and Felix belongs to the latter. And from then on, win or lose, Felix began to immerse himself in the new reality. Time passed. Even though he had a different mindset than before, Felix fought dozens of times but never won. A one-sided defeat. Felix always tried to defeat Roman, but Roman could predict his moves, so he won every time. But all those fights weren't meaningless because Felix was a good test subject. And Roman's response time had increased as a result of this accumulated experience. Soon, 2 months had gone by since he got there, and Felix, who was away from Frank, realized how strange Dmitri was. Dmitri is a barren family on the outskirts, but the military power it holds is greater than others. The guards at the gates. He thought they were well trained at first, but when he saw Roman's men, he completely changed his opinion. There were hundreds of them. Even ordinary soldiers showed such extreme power that they could be called knights. Moreover, their blind loyalty. Occasionally, he had some chances to watch them train, and their aspirations felt so strong. It was no different with Dmitri's men. The people would split to the sides to bow to Roman whenever they noticed him. Even though Roman was obviously not the lord of Dmitri yet, he held such an overwhelming position. It was certain. He was a ruler. Roman Dmitri was already accustomed to ruling over others. Roman's attitude of not looking back and accepting people's loyalty aroused a strange feeling inside Felix. Felix's teacher. In his absence, the magic tower began to shake. If Phoenix had someone like Roman as the leader, it might have been better. And one day, Felix heard shocking words from the master blacksmith's craftsman. Young Master Roman visits the smithy often? Even though he occasionally shows his face to the people around here, I heard that he uses the private forge to make his own swords. Actually, that is what I heard from the master blacksmith. People say that young Master Roman is like a fire god because when he works there, the flames in the furnace wrap around his body. It was just a casual conversation. But hearing that the flames would engulf his body while working, Felix couldn't simply ignore it. No. His heart raced. The ability to handle fire. If those words were true and not an exaggeration, then this was the answer Felix was seeking. The secret of Phoenix, in order to perfectly cast burning, the ability to accept fire was required. Chapter 157. Dealing with Magicians. Part 5. Felix thought back to his past. Even though he was never directly taught how to manifest burning, he had heard some fragments about it from his teacher. Burning is not the kind of skill that can be mastered in a day or two. First of all, the affinity with fire has to be extremely high. It cannot be taught just because someone wants to learn it. Disciple, if you really want to follow in my footsteps, then become closer to fire with each passing day and fully embrace it. If you no longer feel pain, even with fire wrapped around your body, then you can be reborn as the flame god. The Phoenix Magic Tower. They were weak despite having such a secret technique because there was no clear method for passing on the knowledge they possessed. The former Magic Tower masters. They all embraced the flames in their own manner, and Felix's teacher also acquired an overwhelming affinity with fire as a result of being an arson victim when he was a child. But the experience he went through wasn't what everyone should go through. There were even disciples who deliberately tried to burn their bodies, hoping to attain some realization, but they either lost their lives or some of their body parts. After all, burning was something only the talented could learn, and he had no choice but to pray that the flame would accept him. But Roman Dmitri was engulfed in flames in the forge. If this was true, it was safe to say that he had an overwhelming affinity with fire, which was the basic condition for burning. Even when he sparred with me, Roman's reaction was definitely not a normal one. Aside from having no fear of the flames, it was like the heat didn't even matter to him. Didn't Roman Dmitri just recently learn how to accept the flames and analyze magic? The Dmitri family, who had been familiar with the flames of a forge for generations, might have some secrets. That might not be true. Even so, he couldn't hold back his inflated hope. Burning, it was the source of the Phoenix Magic Tower's power. People acknowledged the value of Phoenix when burning existed with the Magic Tower, and now that they have lost access to their main skill, their Magic Tower is considered useless. This was why burning was needed. Magicians who mastered burning were called disasters on the battlefield, so the fact that the only person who knew it went missing really shook up the Phoenix Magic Tower. In the future, in order for the Magic Tower to survive, and as the person who inherited the tower, he had to manifest burning. After talking with the blacksmith, he went straight to Roman Dmitri. He met up with Roman. He saw his face every day, but the thought of getting a clue about burning made his heart beat hard today. And Felix said, according to the blacksmith, when Mr. Roman Dmitri worked in the forge, you were known to be surrounded by flames on your bare body. Are you protecting your body with mana, or do you have a special way to accept the fire? He couldn't ask about his doubts right away, but he guessed that the answer would be either of the two. If it was the former, then he didn't have to talk further, and if it was the latter, the future of the tower depended on Roman Dmitri. Roman looked at Felix. Even though he didn't reveal his intention for asking, he understood why. The rumors that you have been looking for a way to embrace the fire must be true. If you are asking if what I displayed within the forge is some innate thing, then no. I am no different from any other person. I feel the same heat from the fire, but I managed to solve it in my own manner. Hearing those words, his heart sank. When Roman gave a clear answer, his mouth dried up and his hands turned sweaty. Roman Dmitri. He knows what I want. Actually, there was no need to hide it. It was a known fact that the Phoenix Magic Tower was looking for a way to embrace fire, but no one could provide it. It was a natural result. Forcibly raising the affinity for fire wasn't something humans could solve. It was a realm of the gods, so he hoped that a miracle would happen when he approached the fire. If Roman could give him an answer, Felix was ready to do anything for Roman. The reason why our magic tower is undervalued is that there is no clear system for passing down our secret techniques. I have no choice but to wait for the fire to come and embrace me, and if the transfer of knowledge about burning disappears like what is happening now, then the magic tower is done for. However, if we can find a way to meet the basic conditions, then the magic tower situation would be completely different. Creating a system would help change their situation. Starting with Felix, it was only a matter of time before the entire tower gained stability if they could pass on burning. Phew. He let out a deep sigh, his hands and feet shaking. Felix didn't bother hiding his nervous expression as he cautiously said, I will speak honestly to you. The Phoenix Magic Tower needs the skill that Roman Dmitri has. Please give us the conditions. We will make sure to get them done. He had hope. The past 3 years have been a nightmare. After passing through a time of pain, he finally saw a string of hope. But it isn't that difficult for me to teach you. But I have no reason to do such a favor for you. They met every day for 2 months, so he might have mistaken Roman Dmitri for a kind person. Felix and Roman Dmitri were like two opposite sides of a coin. He thought that their relationship would strengthen with time, but they never had a conversation that was different from their initial purpose for meeting. And that was all. Roman openly said he learned so he could fight better, and he had no intention of spreading his own knowledge indiscriminately. This meant Roman wanted a solid relationship. Now that Felix has revealed his desire, this was a weakness he could hold on to. Felix's expression hardened. The ability to embrace fire, a technique that the magic tower desperately needed. The moment Roman Dmitri drew the line, the Phoenix magic tower lost everything. But Roman hoped to use this as a compromise and offer it when his opponent was desperate for growth. Roman said, "Dmitri has everything. We are financially rich enough to bet on 10,000 gold as a reward for sparring, but we don't need anything from the magic tower. So think about it and tell me. As for the Phoenix magic tower, how far will you go for that one thing?" A blunt question. The development of this conversation was different from what he had expected, and Felix could no longer control his expression. The answer was delayed. He needed time to think, so he called for the other magicians. After explaining what happened with Roman, Nox stepped forward to represent the magicians. "I will tell you my honest opinion. A month in the Dmitri estate, this was something I failed to understand when you called us over, but staying in this place showed me that the estate differs greatly from the rumors. It has an unbelievably perfect system for an estate on the outskirts, and people here show blind trust toward Roman Dmitri. To be honest, I feel jealous. After the tower master went missing, the magicians of Phoenix couldn't find peace even for a moment, but here, the people of Dmitri seem so happy." Felix felt it, and so did the other magicians. As they got along with the people of Dmitri, they could feel how ideal this land was. Was that why? No one said anything at the start, but now they leaned towards Dmitri. "We have had several sparring matches with Roman Dmitri over the past month or so, and we haven't won a single one. At first, I thought we were being careless, but no matter how tactical our approach was, we couldn't come up with a method to defeat Roman Dmitri. He is a nemesis to us magicians. Just the thought of encountering someone like him in a real battle makes me want to run away." Being defeated by Roman. It wasn't just Felix. But all the magicians had no choice but to face repeated defeat against Roman. It was accurate to call him a heavenly being. At least for magicians, the man was an existence they hated to fight against. Why don't we say this? If we cannot win, we join them instead. Now that the Frank kingdom has treated us differently since our fall, I think it wouldn't be a bad idea to dedicate our tower to Roman Dmitri to keep burning alive. And honestly, didn't Mr. Felix come here only to get our consent? Was I that obvious? I have good eyes. And if you didn't think it would work, you wouldn't have asked us in the first place." Nox's words made the other magicians nod. Felix gulped when everyone shared their thoughts. The Dmitri family. The 13 magic towers. They all had their own nations and families that they were siding with. Since magicians were still limited, there has never been a case where a tower would form a relationship with a noble family and not the nation. And now Phoenix was trying to escape from the old tradition. He felt attracted to the Dmitri family and not to the Cairo kingdom. So he closed his eyes. The existence of burning was the most important thing for them. And if they swore allegiance to someone in return for it, like Roman Dmitri, it didn't seem like a bad option. Finally, "I understand. From now on, we will entrust the future of the Phoenix Magic Tower to Roman Dmitri." As the acting master of the tower, Felix made the decision. On that day, Felix brought the magicians and swore allegiance. There were dozens of magicians. Even when they swore allegiance in unison, Roman had a calm face. Being a magician wasn't a great thing for Roman. This was like accepting Chris or Kevin. But this is the ideal situation I can think of. Roman deliberately chose this magic tower for 3 reasons. First, when he was in need of a sparring opponent, Felix was the best option, according to the information he found through the Intelligence Guild. Felix would choose to come to Dmitri for money, but he had the zeal to find a way to win the same battles. Second, Felix specialized in offensive magic. This meant that he wasn't just a cost-efficient choice. Through constant sparring with Felix, he was determined to gain something. Third, he was uncertain about this part, but according to the rumors, the magic tower needed the ability to accept fire in order to manifest burning, and Roman's flame arts were perfect for it. He wasn't sure what this would do. But if Phoenix needed that, it was really the only last piece of the puzzle that could solve the problem, and Roman knew that he would benefit from it. With just one choice, there were 3 benefits. And the fact that the Phoenix magicians had come to Roman would cause great havoc in the Cairo kingdom. There isn't much time left. Here in Dmitri, far from the capital, I will build a fort step by step and wipe out the power system of Cairo at once. As he was lost in thought for the future, Roman began to lay out another step-by-step plan. A few days later, the migration of the magic tower went smoothly. First, they kept the fact that they were following Dmitri a secret and moved their luggage one by one. I hope my choice isn't wrong. After sparring, he decided to learn the infernal divine arts. He wasn't sure if that could be the clue to burning, but he still had to learn it. Roman Dmitri placed no other conditions on Phoenix. He even assisted them in moving to Dmitri for the sole purpose of their sworn alliance. And it was then. Magic Tower Master. What is it? A magician of the Phoenix Magic Tower. He didn't have a high-ranking position, but he was in charge of doing chores. He handed over some documents with a red face. Look at this. This is the budget that Dmitri has given us. Budget? Felix still didn't know what kind of person Roman was. To follow Roman Dmitri and what it meant,